right, Shane, how in the hell are you doing today, bro?
Doing good today. I was gonna say it's always I like Mondays because it's almost like a fresh start. Like you're gonna hit the ground rolling again. If
Mm-hmm.
last week was great, fine, you're starting over. If last week was not so great, it's a new week anyway. So it gives you
Yeah.
a new, not a really a fresh start, but it feels sort of like a fresh start or like another opportunity to gather some momentum. Or if you had no momentum, right? But if you were
Yeah.
rolling last week, a lot of times that carries over to this week. So. I like Mondays. I'm doing good today. Uh, like I talked to you last week, I had a short week because I was in Atlanta for Dragon Con over a couple of days, and then I also had something else happen. Oh, I had somebody come in on Thursday and Friday, so I wasn't working much those days on law firm stuff. I was
Right.
working on some other issues. Um, so now it's like boom, right to work. So I'm having a good time.
Well, good, good. I know. Well, dude, that's a testament as to when you build a firm up that has systems, process, and people in place. You have the capability to go do exactly what you just described doing. Right? Is
Yeah.
take the time and go do things that are outside of the firm because it's not like you stopped making money
No.
just because you went to an event with your wife and you went doing all these things. So it's a huge testament, and I agree with you on the Monday, man. It's beautiful where I'm at. The sun is shining. I'm pumped. And I think the more I'm up to, the more purpose I have in the things I want to accomplish, the better my Mondays are.
Yeah.
Because I actually like want to go do the thing. And
Yeah.
a lot of guys and gals that have come into our space, bro, they're not in this position because they have kind of worked themselves into this weird little pocket and they are like there's not enough hours in the day and they just
Right.
become overwhelmed and then all of a sudden Monday becomes a nightmare because you're
Well,
like,
yeah.
oh shit.
Or Monday is no different than Sunday because you worked all
Yeah.
day Sunday, except now your phone rings, but not in the good way like new clients. It's usually in the people who were sitting and stewing all weekend and now they're calling you on Monday. So you're like,
Yeah.
it's just not great. So
Oh yeah. All right. So, well, I'm excited. We'll just dive into to what we're going to talk about today and probably over the next 90 days worth of
yeah,
show. So, I'm super excited about this idea that we had, which is basically what does it take to actually build a firm with a proper foundation, and what do you actually need to do? What are the keys, and how do you build upon them over
yeah,
time so that you can build a firm that has the capability to go into the 20, 30, 40 million dollar range and
right,
beyond and not get stuck at these places that every attorney that doesn't have a clear plan that's mapped out that far that they run into, right? It's like
right.
you grow to a roadblock and then you're like, oh shit. And half the time you have to rebuild and tear down to then go around the roadblock you built for yourself, only to find yourself a year or two later in another roadblock, with
Well, yeah.
with a brick wall in the way.
Well, you and I have had conversations where I've torn stuff down in my firm repeatedly,
Yeah,
and I think you're going to always have some of that, but I think, part of the purpose of this is to go back and say, even if you've got a firm right now, is it the kind of firm you want, or did you sort of fall into a firm, right?
yeah,
And a lot of lawyers do this in the very beginning. They say, I'm going to open up my law firm. And that's all the thought they give, right? I'm going to open up my law firm. And you're like, well, what kind of law are you going to do? I don't know. I'm going to open up a firm and I'll do what comes in the door, whatever kind of work I can find,
yeah.
which is, and they just skip over any process whatsoever of building the firm they want because they need immediate cash. And I
And
think that,
that's a super tough place to be because when you're starting out, you do need cash.
yeah, oh,
And so
100%.
you will compromise on what you actually should be doing to actually build the business you want to build. And that worst part, and you said it real quick, is the fact that you will end up building, like you'll end up just doing what's available, even if
Right,
you don't like it. And then you end up building a company you don't like.
right.
And then what, right? What
Yeah.
happens then when you literally hate what you do and you hate the clients that you serve and you're like, holy shit, but I can't
Yeah.
turn away because I quote unquote have the golden handcuffs on now.
And that's what I want to say is no matter where you're at, whether you've got a firm, whether you don't have a firm, whether you're starting a new firm, or whether you open the doors and you're starving, so you're doing a little bit of everything, right? And
Yeah.
starving is a relative term because I mean I felt like I was starving and we were making like 60 grand a year, right? As soon as I started my firm, I'm like, well, that's not enough, you know.
Yeah.
So, Uh, but I think the key is to carve out some time to work through like this process we're talking about here and start building towards that firm. Even if, let's say, right now your calendar is full of divorce clients, and for some reason you got a divorce client pipeline, but you hate doing divorce work. Okay, let's work through the system, figure out what
Hmm.
you do want,
Yeah.
and start the process of building towards that. Because like in my space, personal injury, I mean, if you open up that practice, you ain't getting paid for like a year,
Yeah.
right? I mean, not any significant amount of money. So
Which is a problem if you're just starting out and you
right,
want to do that, and what, you just going to start a business and not make any money for a year? Well,
right, and yeah,
that's
that's a
tough.
bad plan. Uh, so like when I started my firm, I opened up doing the two things I know how to do: personal injury work and criminal defense work. And I
Hmm.
started, and I only did criminal defense, not with I just did it because I needed money, right? I mean, you start your firm. One, I needed money, and I needed to fill my time because I had too much time and not enough money. Uh,
Yeah.
so I started doing criminal defense with the idea, and I was trying to split my time half on the personal injury side and half on the criminal defense side. It was probably more like 75% criminal defense
Right.
because that paid the bills and
Hmm.
25% PI. But I carved out that time. And what's important is I made sure it was always there. And what I mean that I was always working to build the personal injury part, even when I was swamped, even
Yeah.
when and starting your out firm, there are sometimes when you're going to work more than 40 hours, right? You're going to, sometimes you're only going to work 10 hours because you don't have any work to do. And other times you're going to work 50, 60 hours because you don't have any staff to do anything. And that's
Yeah.
okay. But what we want to do is walk through this process, how you get out of that as well towards the firm you want. And that's
Yeah.
the handicap I see as lawyers who got some stuff and they're like, well, I just can't make this pivot. You're not making
Yeah.
the pivot because you're not choosing to make the pivot. I mean,
Yeah. And I think for really the basis of starting out, you have to be able to answer that question of what do you want? What,
right.
and it sounds like a dumbest question ever. Like, it's just it's simple. You would ask that to a 10-year-old kid. What do you want to do today? Right? We ask this to our wives. Where do you want to go for dinner? Like, it's like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? We hear it everywhere, but what I have noticed is we all suck at answering it.
It is. It's a hard question, and
Yeah.
sometimes you don't even know, right? And
Yeah.
because I've seen people, they say what they think they want, and I know you've seen it a ton in your
Mhm.
coaching business. You People say what they think they want. You help them build towards it, and a year later they're miserable because what they said they wanted was not what they wanted at all.
Well,
Uh,
you and I literally talked about that today with a particular individual. We're like, if he could just determine what he actually wants,
we could
we
solve
could
the issue.
actually build something.
We could
But
help them.
because yeah, but because he doesn't, and he's lying to himself, and he says what he thinks he wants us to think he wants to want, you end up in this weird dichotomy. And the hardest thing is you'll start believing what you want because of what your parents told you, because of what maybe your colleague told you. He said, "Hey,
Yeah.
this is the kind of law you need to do. This is why you need to do it." But you might hate that,
Yeah.
right? Shane, you obviously personal injury, that's your game. There's some attorneys out there that may be like, I don't want to do the personal injury.
There
But
are.
if all they heard was, I need to do personal injury, I need to do personal injury, and then all of a sudden they find themselves in personal injury and they're like, but I didn't want to do this. Oh, damn it. Oh, I did what
Yeah.
someone else wanted for me.
Yeah.
And
And
I,
it.
that,
Yeah. And well, that's what people told me. They're coming out of the army. They're like, you know how to do criminal defense. You were great at it. You should want to do this. Dude, I
yeah,
did not. I needed a break. I worked on some bad stuff with some bad people. And, going to trial with a dude who's not a nice guy can be tough, right?
yeah,
But I was super good at it. So if you just look at what are you good at, that's also not a good judge of where you want to
no,
go because, I mean, obviously those skills are transferable. I can transfer them from one area to another, but that was sort of would have been the quick, easy, but the long term miserable, right,
yeah,
solution for me. Um, and I think the key too is it's got to be what you want, like you said, what you want, not what somebody else wants or what you think your
yeah,
law school buddies say you should do, or even what your spouse says you should want to do, right? And it doesn't mean if you've got no cases or if you've got no money that you have to turn down work in the beginning,
no,
but you need to know. And I'm going to say that you probably can, but sometimes you need cash, right? I mean, I've
yeah.
been there, and I took some work that in hindsight I probably shouldn't have done just because I needed money, and it was not the right kind of work
I
for
think
me.
every business owner's been the whore for money that way.
Yeah.
Right, where they just you're kind of trapped in this place where you're like, I got to keep the lights on, so I'm going to
Yeah.
do this thing I don't really want to do. And I agree. I think that's it. That is okay on a case by case, occasional basis. Where the trap is if you keep doing it
Oh
and you
yeah.
keep taking the money, and then all of a sudden that's what pulls you down that rabbit hole. And I
Yep.
think the point you keep making is just like you have to be constantly building towards the thing,
Right.
right?
So
Which is that,
yeah,
yeah,
you just got to carve out the time. And if that means you work more than 40 hours this week, okay, work more than 40 hours this week. Maybe
yeah,
Saturday is your dream day, or you're working on moving out of your day to day. I mean, you could do that if you're working 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday on your criminal practice, but you want to do Social Security. Great. What would Saturday look like if that was your Social Security day where you worked on that?
yeah.
Or can you do Thursday and quit doing cases on Thursday? Or is there some way? So I think, as we talk about week one, I think week one is deciding what kind of law you're going to niche down to,
Yeah.
right? What kind of broad area. And this is not even what kind of firm you want. This is what kind of law are you going to do, plaintiff or defense, and what are you going to do there? And the reason this question is so important is because one, it derives what you study, right? Because if you don't know how to do it, you need to figure out.
Yeah.
But two, once you make that decision, then you can start to think about focusing your marketing towards your desired clientele. You can start figuring out what kind of team you need. You can train your team. You can get a document library. And I know there are lawyers out there, especially who have the story that they can't niche down, right? That there's just no way to do it. And I would say, look at who you want to be. And
Yeah.
like for me, I wanted to make a lot of money, right? That was one of the issues. I want to make a lot of money. I wanted to help a lot of people. But when I looked at all the successful lawyers, the best lawyers, they had always niched down. And that's not just in personal injury space. I mean, in personal injury space, there are some dudes who niche down to where they only do elevator cases or tractor
Mhm.
trailer cases or, birth defect med mal cases. I mean, they're super niche down. I'm not niche down that far, but like, look at the criminal defense guys. The best criminal defense guys only do criminal defense. The biggest bankruptcy firms only do bankruptcy. I mean, you look at
Mhm.
partners in big white stocking law firms, they usually, mainly do one area and then they have somebody else in a different practice area. So they'll hand that job off to somebody else. So niching down is almost a requirement to be what I would say elite and have an elite firm,
Yeah.
especially super successful. I mean,
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest lies that we are told is that if I niche down, I will say no to too much business. Like I'll exclude people,
yeah,
right? And the big concern there is like, well, somehow, I'm not going to get Susie Smith over here. She won't hire me and then I'm not going to get Bob, and I'm not going to get Eric, and I'm not going to get. Well, the reality is when you don't niche down, you become vanilla.
yeah,
You become just the jack of all trades, and you become the one that does everything, and we think in our minds that that's good. I can get all sorts of things. I can get every single thing that happens. I can pull them in. But what we don't realize, this is why it's the biggest lie, and you can't. A lot of it, you have to take the words and advice of others who have been down this road, because usually you don't get it until you experience it and you realize that you cannot grow that way, right? You can't. But what happens is you think you're limiting by niching, but what's
right,
actually happening is you were broadcasting louder and stronger to those people. And I think one of the reasons we get afraid is because we have this really dumb mindset, which is the world is small. We think that there's not a lot of people, right? And it's crazy. I'll meet people that have massive social media influences, and I'm meeting them for the first time, and they have millions of followers on social media. Millions. I've never heard of them. And I
yeah,
meet them just one day, and I'm like, oh shit, turns out you're kind of a big deal. That's cool.
yeah, right,
So I'm like, okay, but the reality is there's tons of people like that everywhere, meaning there are so many people. So when we niche down, what we're doing is we're basically taking our flag and shooting it up as high in the air as we possibly can, saying, hey, everyone who deals with this divorces,
right.
I am your guy. If you are going through bankruptcy, go away. If you got injured in a car wreck, go away. If you slip and fell at somebody's house, go away. But if your wife cheated on you, guess what? I'm
I'm
the
your guy.
advocate for the fathers. That's what
No,
I do. I'm niche down. I'm the father guy. That's who I am. And you raise your hand. So when I go through a divorce and my wife cheats on me, I don't sit and look for the jack of all trades vanilla guy. Who do I look for? Who do I want to talk to? Oh, well, it's the dude who keeps raising his hand and broadcasting this message with a big old flag up that says I'm the dude for the fathers. I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna call that guy. Right. And that is why you have to niche down. If you don't niche down, I mean your growth is it just won't happen.
no, it
It
won't.
just
There's Yeah, it just doesn't happen. I mean, when you look at the general practice firms where everybody's doing a little bit of everything, they never get past two or three lawyers. But
no.
more importantly, it's not even the lawyer count, it's the revenue count, right? And it's the revenue count and it's also the feast and famine cycle because so much seems to be dependent on referrals and their cash flow goes up and down, up and down, up and down. I mean, rarely do they have predictability. Those are the guys that I talk to, and they're like, oh, I had a great year 3 years ago. Well, what happened? Well, I got one random case in that was good. Or I
Yeah.
got, this random work from this one company that was good.
Yeah.
And then it drops off. So they never get this consistency. They
Mhm.
never get this upward profitability. And honestly, they cap out at two or three. And it's because, like you say, they look like everybody else. I mean, they're
Yeah.
what ad are you going to run? And it's like that ad that says, John Smith Law Firm, we do criminal, divorce, personal injury,
Mhm.
social security, bankruptcy. I mean, that is not compelling to the
No.
guy who's running through a bankruptcy when they've got your ad, and then right next to it they got an ad that somebody who says, "Hey, we do is this, and here's the different types of things, and this is probably your situation." And the guy looks and goes, "That dude looks like he knows what the heck he's talking about."
Well, let me
So,
give an example that I think would be relative to every single one of us, no matter where you're at, right? So you have car dealerships everywhere. You have people like car repair shops, right? And you have some of those ones that are like, hey, we work on every car from German to Italian to, well, they probably don't work on Italian to, anyhow, like you domestic to foreign, whatever, right? They're everybody. They work on every single car. Here's what I'll tell you. I would never in a million years take my car to one of those places. Never. But where I will take my car is to the place that only works on my car.
yep.
Right? And I understand not everybody's in the place that they have the kind of car where they only work on a certain type of car. But there's a lot of shops that cannot work on my car. But if there were a shop broadcasting, we work on everything. There's no chance I want somebody who also works on a Honda Civic touching my car.
Well,
It's
and
not
that's what
because
I'm
I'm
going
a
to say.
diva or a
I was just going to step in and say, and if you do everything, you're always subject to price,
oh,
right?
for sure.
Every client is going to be price shopping. They've got lots of ability to negotiate with you, and honestly, you can't even defend yourself really because you can't say I'm great at doing wills when they're looking at your website saying, well, you do 14 different other things. Why are you great at wills?
Yeah.
So right, so you're always subject to price as well. And I mean,
Mhm.
honestly, those clients are probably going to be the people who are going to be least likely to pay your bills and your fee because,
Oh, and they'll complain. They'll be your pains in the ass, right? I take my
yep,
car into service to the place I take it to that only works on my car. Guess what? I don't even ask what the bill is.
no,
I don't even think about it because I'm very aware. I mean, I've never left that place, even if it's just for they just look at it because they change the air filter, less than $1,000.
yeah,
It's just what it costs to work on next car. I know that. I don't care about that. I'm not worried about that. So I know I'm going to the best place that's going to get my car and make sure my car is always at tip top shape and it gets all the maintenance, everything done. If they recommend it, I don't question whether they're being honest or dishonest with me. I'm like, you recommend it? Do it. Like
yep,
make it happen, right? So that place, the person who wants to drive the Honda Civic that's to go to the place that's going to serve everything and sell everything, right? That person's going to be that they would never survive in the dealership that I go to and go into that repair shop. They would never. It wouldn't happen. It just that relationship would never work. So that part of it, and it kind of spins us to, which is part of choosing your niche, is choosing who the hell you want to work with
yeah,
because that's part of answering that question. What clients do you actually want? Like, do you want to be the Walmart of attorneys? Like, do you want all the people, the penny pinchers showing up and this is how they're going to treat you and you're nickel and dime every single thing and they're trying to get you to reduce fees on every single filing, no matter what.
yeah,
Why? Because that's who they are. Or would you rather work with the same person who will take their car to a specific shop and pay 4 times the amount for it because he knows it's done right and it's done by the best? Would you rather have that client who's not going to complain about fees? In fact, they are willing and happy to pay more because they know they're getting the best. And I know this sounds so simple, right? What do I want? And who do I want to work for? What do I want? Whose problems do I want to solve? But
Yeah.
if you can figure this out and really go after that, and I'm not talking trash on the guy who wants to be the Walmart attorney. There are some attorneys that's who they feel called to serve. Those who don't have a lot and they need to help that person. Good for you. And can you build a business model that way? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You could absolutely do that. What we're saying is if you don't niche it down, even in that pool of people that you'd be working with, you're going to hit a wall and you will not be able to grow and scale past it because you do not you're just vanilla.
Right, and that's what we're going to say is like if you were choosing to be the Walmart of attorneys, right? The guy who wants to handle a high volume, lower margin but total cost, that's fine. We need to know that going in though, so that we can focus on being super efficient, right? You've got to
Yeah.
squeeze every dollar out of that top line or that bottom line because you're not going to have wide, huge margins like you might have
No.
something else, right? Like, so I mean, things that come up to mind for me are like bankruptcy, cases, right? That's a highly competitive area. There's sort of some bargain basement people out there, and I don't want to say bargain basement like they don't do good work. I don't actually know whether they do good work or not. What I do know is though they advertise their price for certain types, and there may be add-ons, but that lets it it's going to be super efficient. You've got to be super efficient to make money
Mhm.
there, right? You can only afford to spend a certain amount of money because you're competing on price. Same in divorce, same in wills. There's always a couple people who are competing, being the Walmart, right? We're going to offer a similar cookie cutter service for a fixed amount of price, and it's usually lower than everybody else. And they're out there, and that's fine if that's what you want to do, and you've got ads
Mhm.
that can generate those. But then we're going to have to focus on being super efficient, right?
Yeah.
And everything's going to be tied in. You're going to talk about virtual assistants. You're going to be looking at people overseas doing some of the work. You're going to be uh, your marketing. You're going to have to track everything because you can only afford to spend so much. All right, so knowing that, we can focus on different things versus the guy who's doing high end, $10,000, $20,000 divorces only for business owners that are men that are cheated on by their second wife. Right?
Yeah.
That guy's charging 20 grand, 30 grand every time. Or like I've got an accountant, that may charge 40 grand to go into his office. So by knowing what kind of law you want to do and who your client base is, we can then start to make other decisions like that affects your marketing. I mean, this affects everything about your
Yeah.
firm, which is why I think you need to go spend a day figuring out, what kind of law you want to do, and in an ideal world, and
Yeah.
then spend another day. What does that client look like? And I think we're going to have one later on where we're going to go through like your avatar, which
Yeah.
is that's your target client you're advertising for, right? As we work through that in this series. But figure out what kind of law you want to do. Figure out what you think your clients are going to look like generally wise. And those are the two things. And if you've got to practice now, you don't have to shut it down. Let's just carve out a certain amount of time and start focusing all your marketing efforts, your business development efforts in that new area. So, and you can keep all your other stuff going. I mean, you don't have to
Mhm.
turn down the will and the divorce if you need the money. But let's focus the growth of our firm in the area we want it to go,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's well, and Shane, we spend like there's events that we will do with attorneys that are trying to answer this one question. It's a 2-day event.
yeah,
It literally is 2 full days to figure out what do you actually want, and that sounds like how could you possibly have 2 full days on that? You'd be surprised.
yeah,
Your call to action after this quick little show today, as we kind of dive through the concept, is to start down the road of really answering that question and be to brutally honest with yourself. Is the firm you have currently built what you wanted? Or
yeah,
is it on the path to where you want to go? Or is there a major pivot that needs to happen? Like, if you're honest, right? This is not we're taking egos and throwing them out. And we're saying, hey, I'm going to be totally truthful because ultimately, if you don't, 20 years from now, you're either going to have the firm and the life you want or you're not. And
right.
it doesn't, and it's, you're in control of it. And that might mean you have to shift a little bit, but it's absolutely doable. But all of that starts with answering that simple question. So take a pen and paper out, take it up, put it up on your phone, right? And just ask yourself, what kind of firm do I want? What is my niche? When I say niche, what is that? If you could niche down and work with one area and one area only, and I'll promise you, any niche you could come up with, there are attorneys right now making millions in that niche.
Oh yeah, like
There's not a niche that you can come up with that someone has not done this in. So that's good. That shows you proof that, hey, what we're talking about actually works and you can do it. So let yourself have an imagination. let logic go and just be like, what niche would I want to work on? If I could work on this every single day, like, and I guarantee throughout your day, there are certain things you love doing and certain things you hate doing, and just allow yourself that space and freedom to be like, okay, what is the thing? What do I actually want here? What niche? What could I go after? And starting to look at that picture, and it will really, and this is just, like I said, this is going to be a 90, I think it's 90 days, I think is how long we have it
Yeah.
mapped out for. It's going to be a 90-day series put together where you could literally utilize what we're doing every single week. And if you do what we're talking about in your firm and you keep building on it as you go through, you're literally going to have the framework for how you can create the firm that you want to really go after everything that you have. So we also offer up free trainings over on our website, legaledgecoaching.com. So head over there and you can get access to that. We also are taking on, and this is something Shane and I have been back and forth on whether or not we wanted to do this or not, but we are taking on just a few, is very limited throughout the rest of this year. Well, we will work with you and your firm one on one deep dive with your teams, deep dive with you, your systems, your routines, everything. And we will literally help you build the map and work with you all along the way, making sure you implement the steps and the process and everything we're talking about to pretty much ensure and guarantee. I mean, there's the only guarantee in life is death, but if you do what we're talking about, what we would help you do, it's going to help you through all those pivots and get you where you actually need to go. And this isn't from theory. This is from real tactics of what, obviously, Shane, what you did in with
Yeah.
Shane Smith Law over the last few years.
Yeah. Only thing I would say on that, Trevor, is obviously it is exclusive. There's a couple of people. If you've got if you're just starting out your firm, it's going to be tough to do that unless you're coming from somewhere because it
Yeah,
costs a bunch to work with the two of us one on one. But and my executive team, but for the right person, it can be great. If you're stuck at a hurdle and you're like, shoot, this year I didn't grow as much as I want, or even if you did grow and you're like, dude, I need some coaches in here. I think then it's worth the conversation, helping you get to that next level. And if you've got a firm you hate right now, but it's paying your bills, that might be a good candidate too to come in and help us
yeah.
turn it into the direction you want. Uh,
Yeah, if you're not to that point, Shane, if you're not making 5 million plus in your firm, then that's probably not a conversation that we should be having. It's just not going to make sense for you where you're at economically in your company. But everybody below that don't worry, we haven't forgot about you. This is where we got all the free training and all the
yeah.
access to all the content on our website, thelegaledgecoaching.com. But either way, you can get access to both of those inside of that. And if you got value from today's show, go ahead and share that up with somebody maybe in social media on, hey, let's follow these guys for the next 90 days. And we're going to dive deep into how to either build or pivot your firm the right way.
I was gonna
So,
say, the only thing I'm gonna commend is I think this series is actually perfect for like when you get two guys or two gals who start their firm, right? They usually they leave one firm and they're stepping out on their own.
yeah.
I think it's a great series for them, right? Because we're gonna give action items every week, and you could literally listen to this, and then you guys could set an hour after the thing and work through some of these issues and get them started. And that's an ideal person for this because you've got some business, you're growing your firm, but you're also concerned about cash flow. But if you start making these decisions early, you're not going to look up 5 years in and be like, hey, how did I get here?
Yeah. Yeah. Which
Yeah.
is where we want to help you avoid. Because
Yeah.
it's a shitty place to do it after you've already spent 5, 10 years building something to only realize it's not what you even wanted. So
Right.
brings us to a close today. We appreciate you guys being listening and viewers of the show. We'll see you guys next week as we dive deeper into week 2 or step 2 of this series on how to build your firm. So
Building your dream firm.
that's right. That's right. Appreciate you guys. Have a fantastic rest of your day. We're out.